it's part of our business. We need them. We love them. I think it's super replicatable, no matter where you are.
He just grinded cold calls until he got up to number 2 in town.
Seeing it from the outside is how marketing is supposed to work.
The amount of hate I would get.
Like all those different things, because no, that's not anywhere. No one talks about that stuff.
So today's episode's a great one. We had Matt join us, and basically Matt Richling, who's from Ottawa, runs New Purveyors team, great agent, has a really cool strategy online that generates a lot of leads, which we talk about. We also talk about the challenges he's having in his business, what he's working on, how he thinks about stuff. So it's a really good episode. I'm not going to do a long-winded intro here. Let's dive in and let's watch.
So just a reminder for those who are coming live. The way that we do this is not just you have to sit there and listen. If you want to chat with us, you can put questions in the chat. If you are camera ready, you can say you want to ask your question in person and we will promote you to a panelist. Get on camera, ask questions of any of us. It's literally that simple. If you want to join in and join the conversation, feel free. But Matt, for those who don't know you, who are you?
Can we start with why are there like 10 Taylor Hacks?
We're not sure.
I'm a one-man army.
No, apparently not. Apparently not on Zoom. You're not.
Yeah, no, I literally have to set it to hide non-video participants because every time I have like 3, 4, 5 Taylor Hacks as a panelist on here.
Yeah, what we've got going on here is my studio computer, my computer so I can see, like my laptop so I can see the chat, and then also an AI note taker.
Yeah.
So anyway, I come with an entourage. How's it going, Matt?
It's good. All right, you asked who I am. I don't know. My name is Matt. Matt from Canada. That's how I've been explaining myself.
Known each other what, 10 years now?
Yeah, a long
Just
time.
about
a long time. You were a youngin. We were both youngins. We were just babies.
So I saw like the first photo of us when we were at Inman together. Just babies.
Yeah.
You might as well call you Inman Matt.
Yeah, now.
It's dangerous. But no, it's I just came back, landed last week. It was fun. It was a great week. If you haven't been, you should definitely check out something like definitely an American conference, without a question, right? Obviously, whether it's NAR, there's a ton now. So, FubCon, anything. What's it called now? It's called something else.
It's not FubCon anymore?
No, it's like Beyond. Taylor,
when I spoke there, it was a FubCon.
No.
But man, they keep pace over at Follow Up Boss, so I'm sure that they're introducing new and innovative things.
I've heard their conference is excellent. I haven't done that one yet, but I've heard, or FubCon or whatever it is now, was an excellent event.
Well, possibly set the bar.
Taylor was a keynote. Let's just be
well, that's why it must have been great, right? Like there's no other possible reason there.
You know how I follow racing a lot, and these Le Mans teams, they're required to have 4 drivers, and one of the rules is that one of them cannot be a professional driver, and that's normally the guy who pays for the team, and they call that a gentleman driver. Me being a keynote at Follow Up Boss, I felt like the gentleman driver because I was between Tom Ferry and John Cheplack.
Yeah, that happens. So you're kind of like liking it to like with the Olympics going on, how everyone thinks there should be like one regular person racing next to them so that we can see just how good the professionals are. Like,
I think it should go further than that. I think that what should happen is it should be like jury duty, where you get like an envelope and they're like, you're our high jump guy.
But I still want the best of the best next to that person. Like I would love, like throw me in the 100-meter dash and just see how much better these people are. Because like when everyone is like a head apart, you want to see me like not even able to make the 100 meters sprinting, and I've like pulled up halfway through with like an Achilles injury.
That would be great. Like the warm up for every event is the average Joe's doing it.
Yeah, and then you could do like a superimposed like hologram behind the regular race of like, and here's how the average people ran it.
See, that would give us so much more context, right?
Yeah,
and
because they're so good, and they make it look so easy. Like, yeah, like throw like the 3 of us in synchronized swimming right before with no practice.
I'd love that. That's right up my alley.
It'd be awesome.
No, or the high jump guy, right?
Yeah.
And he knows his heights by a centimeter,
Yeah.
right? That was like stuff like that. You're just like, I don't get it. It's so insane. Anyways,
It is insane.
I
So, like,
love
I've
watching the
grown-
Practice
Olympics.
that much. This is actually why some Olympians make great realtors. Like when I was selling, one of the guys in my office who was like #1 in town, he was like he won the bronze medal in the '92 Olympics for swimming.
Are you talking about Bill?
No, it was Marcel Gary. But he kind of like took that mentality of like how I prepare for the Olympics, how I do all that to cold calling. And he just grinded cold calls until he got up to #2 in town.
I
And that's
totally
awesome.
think that real estate is like the athlete, like business athletes. Like that's how I look at my teammates. Now, Matt, I think that you and I got to know each other on Clubhouse mostly. We were chatting on social media app. I got to see as you rebranded. Right now, what is your current team name?
So we're New Purveyors.
And that was an incredible launch. Like, I want you to know that you were having fun with that launch video, and I still remember it.
Oh, are you talking about the one where we basically included all of the famous people?
Yeah.
I love that video. It's so cool.
It was hot, it sizzled, but it also worked because so many people were kind of getting to know you, and seeing it from the outside is how marketing is supposed to work. It's a game of perception. And the perception of that, you made it big, you made your team a hot place to work. And now what's your team look like today?
So we're 13 agents plus me plus our support staff. We have full-time marketing, and so we're down to 2 support staff right now. So we have 1 full-time marketing and 1 full-time admin. So in-house.
That's very similar to how I run.
VA, yeah.
Yep. Right now we have kind of a midfielder. We have a licensed assistant, a full-time admin, as well as a full-time, or actually, I guess Jay is part-time right now while she's doing school. But that's kind of how we roll. So I see a lot of similarities with that. When you kind of lean back and say, if everybody were to zoom out and take a look at like an 80-20 rule, what do you think, makes it sizzle over there? What's the 80% or what's the 20% you do that gets like that 80% return? Is it sales? Is it marketing?
I think it's a mix of both. I think we try to lead with empathy. Maybe is a little bit of a different way to look at it. Everyone's in a different boat doing different things. And I think what makes someone succeed isn't what makes the next person succeed. I use how we treat our admins as one of the examples, right? The amount of respect that they should be given in our industry, I think should be double or triple. And even admins is probably the wrong word, but support staff, right? And because they're part of the team. I phrase it like internally, our organizational chart is this long linear line because we all need each other to do the jobs that we do, right? Without the agents, the admins won't have a job. And without the marketing person, we won't have the copy and we won't have this. And without the admin, we won't have the listing. We won't have our paperwork. And we all need each other to do the level of our business. And I think that respect is what starts to really drive a lot of the things moving forward. And so I don't hold anyone else compared to someone else. Right. We're holding everyone to their own standard, to their own specifics. And I think that empathy, leading with really wanting the best for each individual person is one of the things that really starts to make a difference especially compared to other teams, right? There's so much, and I guess it's with anything. Yeah, I was gonna say there's so much, I don't know, bad things going on in a lot of other teams and in the culture. And we just try and keep that shit out of it. That's all.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're really saying like humans are the highest resource and just act accordingly.
Yeah, but with respect and empathy.
Totally.
And mindfulness, right? I don't know. There's just
tactical side with your team. What I love is what you've done with like the condo building stuff. Like how many leads would you say that, before we get into like specifics, how many leads would you say that generates you? Like let's go with a month.
So leads are shit, right? Aren't they? Isn't that
They're awful.
What we're trying to do right now, I'm gonna come back to that. What we're trying to do right now is basically get a better definition on what a lead is. Because, our different websites are just a part of it. So the condo pages specifically, so when you go to like mattrichling.com and you find one of the buildings, or you Google an address in Ottawa, for example, those are, I'd have to double check specifically the last little bit. We haven't been focusing on that side. We're trying to focus on the new purveyors on the freehold side.
Yeah.
Those pages should be bringing in anywhere from 100 a week to 150 a week, depending on the season and depending on what's going on. And then you look at the other websites, all doing the same thing, but at different levels, depending on what it is.
And are you taking the idea of what you did there and doing anything similar on the freehold side?
Yeah, 100%. Because that was so yeah, we can, if you want to backtrack a little bit to kind of how I got to be there. I think it kind of paints a little bit of a picture, right? When I was I've been in the business for a long time, and when I was coming in, there was no internet, well, I guess there was internet, but there's no Google, right? Google was kind of a new thing. Blogging was new. And so I needed a reason to have a blog. Gary Vee was all, have a blog. So we needed a reason to have a blog. And I was like, well, I'm in real estate. Let's talk about these condo buildings. Well, that would have been probably around, 2008, 2009, 2010. Around that time, we started building these pages for specific buildings, and we started seeing traffic from a lot of out of town people who had picked up investment properties. So they weren't local, but they wanted a way to stay on top of things. And so little old me would just, I'd walk over to a sales or to I'd call a sales center. I'd find out what's going on, where things are at, but I'd walk over to the construction sites. I'd just snap a picture or two, ask the guy holding the stop sign what's going on with zero knowledge. I had zero knowledge at the time, and we're shoring up the parking garage, and I'm like, cool. And then so I just, I'd put it into a blog post, and then I'd call the sales center, what are the sales at, what are prices at, put that into a blog post. And then just try and rotate between buildings and because I could talk about that. No one else was really talking about it. Just after that period, our condo market kind of, went really neutral, if you will, which a lot of agents hated, right? A lot of agents hated going downtown. A lot of agents hated dealing with stat certificates. They had no issues with well and septic, but they hated stat certificates and the idea of it. And so I just dug in deeper. I said, I love this. I still wish I went. I think I wish the one regret is I didn't go harder into being like that guy, right? Digging in and owning the niche. But I tried to kind of play a balanced role. I had radio ads making fun of some of the suburb areas. That was awesome, right?
Yeah.
Tired of living in Orleans and things like that. It was fun. And I was just trying to find my people, right? Trying to find my tribe, trying to find that ideal client who, didn't want to live in those areas and who currently did. And so, yeah, we just kind of owned it, kind of going into, because we were seeing it work. We were getting calls from Toronto. We were getting calls from Montreal. We're getting these calls of investors going, hey, I've got a unit there, interested in what's going on. They weren't asking me to sell anything, and it wasn't about buying anything. What we realized was I started doing really well once the building was up. So I was kind of, investing into the future, that when they turned around and had to sell 2 years, 3 years later, that was when they were calling me, because they kept seeing my name. They kept seeing me involved in it. They kept seeing me paying attention to it. No one else was. And so I'd get the call, hey, we need to sell our unit, or we need to offload our unit, or whatever, or we need to rent it. And that was when we started saying, oh, this works. And so when we started doing it a little bit more of the pre-con side. So we got zero pre-con business from this. But when we started seeing pre-con launches happening, and they wouldn't use outside agents, usually they would just use their own sales staff inside, especially in Ottawa. And we didn't have a lot of it, right? This isn't Toronto. This was, Ottawa, lonely old Ottawa. We'd build up just a page with all the information that we had. All the floor plans, all the information that we think is coming, anything that we could gather, all the city stuff, whatever we had, right? We would just throw a logo on it and dump it on a page. And really it was just to build SEO. It wasn't to sell pre-con stuff. It was to build SEO for when the building launched, and then building, basically was finished, then we'd turn around and get the business. And then, shortly after that, I would have brought on my first admin. And I think that was kind of the gasoline on the fire to go, okay, I got to find a reason to keep you busy. So let's just build condo pages for all the stuff we have floor plans for. Right.
Yeah.
And whatever information we have. Oh, we have a status certificate from this building. Well, what information can we share from the status certificate that won't really piss people off? And let's put it onto the website, right? Like, we would listen to a lot of the Zillow stuff at the time. I listened to them talk about, accessibility and how can we make this, more universal for someone who maybe isn't our, number one client, but how can we find more things that we can put on the web? So we would drive around and go, okay, well, there's 3 steps to get in. This building's not accessible. Oh, this one's got a wheelchair ramp. This building's accessible, right?
Yeah.
And being able to put that information on. And so we really try to invest in these pages to make it easier. Kind of build an army of little web pages that, worked for us for SEO. And that was amazing. And that was great. And that essentially kind of launched what we then now are trying to focus on for the freehold side, right?
Yeah.
And so you try and get into, okay, well, what information isn't out there, right? Who were the builders for these like micro neighborhoods, right? What were some of maybe the finishes that were standard at the time? What were some of the features, right? Things like that, where we were really trying to kind of dig out, and that's a lot harder. But that's kind of the mental side of what we were trying to do on the freehold is like, all right, let's get information that no one else really has. We're supposed to be experts in this area, neighborhood, whatever. Let's dig it out and let's throw it up and see what we've got.
Yeah. Like on the condo side, one that I've always felt there's huge opportunity is just having like pages dedicated to like which buildings allow large dogs, which ones allow small dogs, like all those different things. Because that's not anywhere. No one talks about that stuff.
Yeah.
And
if you're an owner, a pet owner,
that
you
matters.
need to know this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
now,
for some, that's the number one filter for, can I consider this building or not?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we talked about this. And I think, internally, and one of the things that we landed on was, because those rules change all the time, we needed to be really careful about what we put out there.
Yeah. You'd have to put the date it was accurate as of.
Well, so
right?
we do that because we put we want to give a lot of information, but we don't want to gatekeep anything.
Yeah.
While at the same time, all the stuff changes, and we don't necessarily we weren't updating it constantly and regularly. So we always had at the bottom when it was last updated, but we don't necessarily have a status certificate for a building every single week. So we just really, to simplify that for us, we just put, is there a pet restriction in place? And we'd have to dig into what that was, but at least it gave someone a little bit more information that was already out there and kind of helped. It was hard, but that's exactly what we would try and do. We would try to sit there and go brainstorm, okay, how can we do a better job of this, right? And went from there. So
I've always thought, especially on like the freehold side, is like the idea that I had ended up not doing because I stopped selling, which was like, you start with like kind of you do a condo page, but for a neighborhood. And then you actually start going more granular to the main streets. Cause like where I sold, there's like a couple streets that everybody wanted to live on. So like you profile those first. And then like, so you go down to like, even if they're Googling the street name, now I got them coming to mind. And I was like, you just start at the top with the highest turnover and go down from there. Like multi-year project.
And now with ChatGPT, like, you pump these things out. They're easy,
simple.
But no, and it was kind of like this long-term play, and I'd see people kind of try and mimic it, but they just wouldn't be consistent, and they wouldn't put the regular activities in, and you could see they would miss the mark on little things, right? Like they weren't putting themselves into the shoes of a buyer per se. They were missing a couple elements. They were thinking more from the real estate position, putting the realtor hat on, not necessarily, okay, well, what is a buyer looking for, right? And just going that way. And so it's super interesting. Obviously, like I don't even look at them anymore, where I'm, that's someone else's kind of place now. But that's, without those, it's part of our business. We need them. We love them. I think it's super replicatable, no matter where you are. And, if you can even niche those down even further, then you're laughing. So
that's awesome. I got a few questions about lead management. So when they come over the barrier from your lead sources into your CRM, first off, how do you divide them into people that you want to talk to, or what Andrew would call a sales qualified lead, versus people that are just looking to get more information over time, like a marketing qualified lead? Like with a volume of 100 to 150, what does it look like right when they come into the database?
So everything's round robin internally. We don't have an ISA department right now. It's something that we started kind of dipping our toes into. Do we want to kind of go this path? I was a strong believer right from the beginning that it's not a lead, it's a person. And so one of the things that we do when we were talking about leads is really kind of, and this works for anyone that joins our team, it's the same sort of thing. We've got to really change the way that we think about this person or this lead that came in. Usually, even whether it's a paid lead, whether it's a lead that's coming in through the website, no matter what it is, we have to completely change the way that we've believed about it before and the way that we think about it moving forward. The goal isn't to sell them something. The goal is to just have a conversation with them. The goal is to really just, the first goal is to get contact, but in reality, it's to have a conversation. It's to build a relationship. And I've always believed that in theory should be done with the agent that is essentially working that person, right? Is trying to build that relationship. And so, that might change when we kind of launch into an ISA department, and possibly if we do, fully go down that path. But for now, it's where most of our stuff is round robin. Agents get matched up, and then they essentially will start trying to build a relationship with that person through text, email, call, and just work with them, go from there. We try and coach everyone individually to kind of best standards, what things that we've learned, things that work better, shorter emails, shorter messages, things like this, less details on specifics, answer quick, but there's certain little metrics that we've kind of learned that definitely give us better chances of success. But at the end of the day, we don't have a lead pool, maybe for more, we'll call them dead leads or old leads, or people that have told them specifically to they're rude, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's really the biggest thing is you've got to look at each lead as being like a 2 to 3 year goal, and that you're building a relationship. That's without question.
Well, everyone moves eventually, right? Like this, you got to keep them in there. Like I remember, literally the first lead I ever paid to generate was actually the last deal ever closed for me. And it was a couple of years, but it was the first lead I ever. And they went.
It's like the universe telling you, and you're done.
Yeah, a nice bookend on it. And on what might have been the worst landing page that ever existed at the time. Like I went to a seminar, and they're like, "Yeah, you just want to offer people a free list of homes," and I was like, I can do that. So I literally put because this was obviously early, there was no landing page builders that were clean and nice, and Squarespace was not I loved Squarespace once that came out because it was so easy to build an easy website on it. And so I used Google Blogger, and I had to go find a third-party company that charged $100 a month for contact forms. And it was called 123 contact forms, and literally it's there's no design to it. It's just name, email, phone number, message box, and then I just above it I wrote get a list of homes in your inbox, and I'd run ads to that, and it killed it for a while. But that was that wouldn't work today. It only worked back then because nobody else was doing that type of thing. So it was unique at the time. But the first lead I ever got, I would do that.
I would argue it would work today, because if you were consistent with it, right, it would still work.
So you have to change because back then there was now it works when we do it as you have to specify the type of home, right? So it's what's a design, but if I just get a list of homes with nothing else, people are I can go and get a list of homes. I had no differentiator as to why this list was better than what you just get on your own. Yeah. It was pretty rough, but I loved that one. It's such a stupid little landing page that was so poor design. I went a clip art of 100% satisfaction guarantee badge, and I put it on the side because someone's you gotta have a trust factor, and I was all right, and I googled satisfaction guarantee, and
I don't think people understand how difficult it was to do things like this.
Yeah,
even
but this is the
5
origin
years ago.
This is the origin story, right? Like initially
like-
he was doing very basic tests, but when you
Yeah.
took a look at like the repetition and the reiteration and the improvement and things like that, like some of those fundamentals still speak now in your content and in your marketing approach.
Oh, yeah.
And the same thing as your experience, like going to the place and asking the guy with the sign and taking those like shots at the building were like the fundamental building blocks to getting further than anybody else that was trying to do like similar marketing. Now people look at you and they're like, "Oh man, you're like on a mountain," and you're like, "Yeah, but it started with steps."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
it was-
those
it
little
was-
things that
Oh,
can't be
man,
done easily that make the difference, right? Like going and interviewing the guy in the street, going like I was talking to Taylor about like when you were talking about doing your school pages, like going and asking the principal questions that you can put on it. Like it's stuff they
Okay, you guys
can't
want to hear something?
easily get. Yeah, I do.
I ran a negative ad relating to schools in my marketplace.
Yeah.
So I ran Fraser Institute's 5 lowest rated schools. And I can tell you that if you are ever wondering if anybody is paying attention, take a shot like this because you'll hear from them. I got every teacher, I got all of them to say something.
Yeah.
And it was one that the Fraser Institute may not be their preferred rating system. That was right out of the gate. Even to the point where people were sending this to like administrators of schools during summer holidays. That came back to me.
Yeah. But then
So-
what'd you turn that into?
Well, I knew what I was doing, right? And so I had a prepared response. So I stayed really close to my messenger so that I could get to people right away. Because leaving them upset is like a big thing. And I determined after a little while that, okay, I've got enough. Like, one, the ad spend was ridiculous. Like, negative travels so fast, so cheaply, that what I was trying to do is get a video out to people that would be in my ideal client profile and get them all to watch 3 seconds of it so I could use Andrew's strategy to get around the limitations with geographical marketing on social media.
Yeah.
So that was the goal. We achieved that goal at like 1 cent per view. Like it was super cheap.
Yeah.
And then we had all these people come to us, and what my plan was for the people to come to us is to recruit them to be part of my resource for making this better. And I told them about like, man, we struggle because like things like Fraser Institute are what you get when you hit Google on this. And we have a whole bunch of people moving here that have no idea where the school is going to go. It's so hard to find out even where you should live based on quality of schools. And so now I have a bunch of people that are willing to contribute. So when Andrew says now you go and interview those people and start building those school pages, well, families with kids, like the crowd at Costco, that is my ideal client profile. I know a ton about them. And this was kind of a cool experience and a cool experiment, but you should have a good plan because you're going to catch some heat.
Yeah, like negative can work, but you have to be ready for that side of it. Like my hard lesson in that was I was at an agent open house, and this agent was talking about a listing he had a couple months before, and he was like, yeah, like they got an offer on day one. And this is back when like the average age on market was like 30, like, and they were listed at like 849. They got an offer, I think it was like 840 on day one. And they're like, you got to take it. They're like, no, we can get more. 3 agents, 8 price drops later, they sold for like 750. And so he was talking about the stories, and I was blogging Monday to Friday, 5 days a week. I didn't have a story for that week. So I just used the story of that listing, but I didn't mention the listing. I just said, I was talking to some colleagues recently about a listing, and it was like the lesson in like, listen when they say like, this is the best offer you're going to get, like, here's what happened. But I detailed the price drops. I didn't mention that even the town it was in or anything else, but I did put the actual specific price drops they put in. 24 hours later, I got a call from the homeowner who saw it and knew it was her listing. And that was an angry message, threatening to take me to Rico and all that. It was pretty great. So I had to like call up the agent who I heard the story from. I was like, so you might hear from your past client. This happened. And then I just changed all the numbers to something else and then put the post back up because it was actually one of my best performing posts too. But yeah, you got to be prepared that if you're going to call out the negative stuff, you're going to get called out, and have a plan.
We
Yep.
had I mentioned that, we had radio ads. So we had radio ads that were basically, tired of living in Farhaven, which is Barhaven, tired of living in, Borleans. And we were just making fun of these places because we knew that the demographic that wanted to live downtown didn't want to live in those places. Right. And so then we also had, garbage bin signs and stuff like that. And the amount of hate I would get, it was kind of awesome.
As long as it's
great,
the right
right?
people, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's how you know it's working.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it's like when I used to do speaking gigs in Ottawa, like I remember how many other speakers would like make fun of the Leafs and like make a whole thing about putting on a Sens jersey, and I'd come out there like middle fingers up with a Leaf jersey on and start, and it worked better. Like you got a way more engaged crowd, and like if you live in Ottawa, you're used to getting crapped on by Leafs fans.
And you get the opportunity to chirp. That's like the gift of that.
Yeah, and it gives them the opportunity to like warm up to you and then talk trash to you. Like, because I lived in Ottawa, so I knew what the culture was like there, where it's like when the Sens are good, it's like 50% Sens fan. When the Sens are bad, it's like a third Sens, a third Habs, a third Leafs. I don't know if it's still like that. That was 15 years ago, but that was like my favorite thing about living in Ottawa.
Before we get on this call, Andrew's like, "Are you a sports person? Do you like sports? Hockey, right? Hockey?" I'm like, "No."
You're like my buddy.
You gotta come race with us.
No. Yeah. I have a buddy who also not into sports at all, who lived with me in Ottawa. And so he bought a hat because like all of us had like sports hats. So like I had the Raptors, and he just it was all red and in white lettering just said sports. And that's what he'd wear out to us to events, just sports. And then he stopped wearing it because it all of a sudden looked like a MAGA hat. And he'd go out and start getting chirped until he turned and they'd see it. Because all they saw was like white lettering on a bright red hat. And yeah, it was pretty funny. And then he's like, "Yeah, I just had to stop wearing it because I'd like people. I feel like someone's gonna throw something at me."
So I got some questions about what we kind of opened there when it comes to lead management. So you were saying that you have leads come in, they go round robin, and then they go into the databases of your teammates, right? Mm-hmm. And Andrew was talking about like, some people like everybody will eventually buy a house to some extent, and the value of keeping those. Do you pay much attention to what database size each of your teammates have?
Yeah. I'm starting to have conversations with some of them saying like, "Hey, I don't think you need more leads." And really trying to dial that in. And that's a difficult one because I had a conversation with one of them the other day and they were like, "Well, then what's the value of being on the team?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I have clearly not done a very good job here." But it's something that we kind of pay attention to. There's people all over the map with us. Some people that came in with that joined the team with some pretty hefty sizes, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. And those are different. And you got to look at the quality as like, that's not going to be Sphere. That's going to be, they came from another team that was online lead focused, and so that quality is going to be very different than someone who's bringing, a 200 Sphere only type, database. And so yes and no, everything's kind of got a grain of salt attached to it. But I started to have conversations with them saying, "Hey, like, you're doing, so not only that, but we also look at what does their business look like, right? So are they doing 90% Sphere deals, right? Then it's a conversation of, okay, like, are you enjoying the conversion side? Are you not enjoying it? Do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? Do you and we'll check all those kind of metrics. So like, are they following up? What's their, like speed to lead side, things like that. If things start falling off, then we'll sit there and have a question going, all right, like, listen, you've got a pretty sizable database. You've been mostly doing Sphere deals. You in our team, you get paid better for doing a Sphere deal versus let's say a company provided lead. So it makes sense for you just to focus on that. I can assign those leads to someone else and then you don't have to worry about them, and so we'll have a frank conversation with that person because at the end of the day, it's their business and we're there to help them succeed.
I'm curious, actually, it's a question for both of you being team leaders. When new leads come in, they go to CRM, you get assigned to an agent on your team. At that point, how much team resources are going to nurture that lead versus is it just completely handed off to the agent and you don't really have much to do with it? Like, or are you marketing to them still?
After you, sir.
So there's a few things going on all at the same time. The agent is going to be the main person that's in charge of reaching out without question. I'm trying to build that relationship with that agent and the client. You have to remember too that we do things a little bit differently. I kind of explained to you our internal organizational chart. Externally to the consumer, the way that I phrase it is, we're not a pyramid. We don't like pyramids here. We're more like a bullseye. And we have the agent in the center of the bullseye. And then we have new purveyors, we have Remax, we have Remax Hallmark, we have our admins, we have our marketing team, we have me, right? All supporting them around them. And so we're trying to paint a little bit of a different picture to our consumer. That might change. Things that might always change and adapt. Let's say if we had an ISA team, but for now, that's what worked really well for us. And so I want that agent to be the center of attention to that lead. I want that one name. That being said, we do have company resources, like we have Wailopo, we take care of, so everything that comes in, regardless of where it came from, gets that remarketing going on, right? They get the whole shindig. So it's mainly the agent that's going to be taking the charge of it. They might hand them off to someone else, but generally speaking, that's a handoff, not someone else that's going to be diving in, trying to make a connection to then hand back to the agent. So
how about you, Taylor?
I run it like a little bit different. I like what you were saying with like a circle of support. For me, I really view my job as supporting my teammates, and then my teammates' job is supporting our clients. And like that's where like the resource flow is. So I guess mine would probably be a pyramid, but an inverted one. Because really, I just feel like the buck stops here. But everything else has to kind of be in layers. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. Because some of the things that we do just can't be executed by a single person. It feels like I run a ship now, and it's large enough that like we can't leave the beach without 6. Like that's just how many we need to make this thing roll. But now when people come in, we look at it more so on database size and how people will be able to manage a network. Like Dunbar's number says that 150 is the split for humans. It's just based on us being fancy monkeys. And so Facebook works on that theory. And in my own database, I think that if you had 150 people that were like, you are my realtor, that should be able to generate you somewhere around 60 deals a year based on the probability of that group moving, as well as a few advocates in there that are going to bring some people to you. So now when I take a look at that, why would you want to manage more people? Why would you want to go further and try to drag people from not knowing you to knowing you, from not liking you to liking you, from not trusting you to trusting you? When you have people that are already like edging against the gates of trust because they already know and like you, and you're continuing to contribute to those relationships. So on our team, we talk a lot about database temperature. If you don't talk to people every 90 days, I really highly doubt that they think you're their realtor. Like they're having real estate conversations, whether you're there or not. So that's part of it. Like if you haven't had any communication with them in 6 months, in a year, like arguably they're basically somebody else's paid lead that's hanging out in your database rent free right now. So we use a combination of things. We want to contribute to the experience. So we do live video talking about market insight related to stats, not just going over stats that goes to them once a month. We also give different levels of our database access to things. So if somebody says that they're not buying for over 6 months, they're really only getting a monthly from us and a quarterly call and updates on their neighborhood. They get invitation to events, contests, that kind of thing. If they are further down the pipe, like if they said they plan to make a move in the next 6 months, now they're actually seeing properties that are coming to the market before they come to the market. We're trying to turn that motivation into the point where they prove ability and then they come in. So that's what it looks like on the inside. And I don't think that I should keep all my leads. So I have a dissenting opinion. I think I should be creating the largest group of my ideal client profile possible and only trying to carry that many.
So I would argue the only thing that, if we're using that 150 as an example, the tools, if we can leverage our tools to the best of their abilities. So let's just notes within FUB, right? Our smart lists. And if we're using stages, properly, if we're using all the tools that we're given properly, I think that we can really use those numbers, in much greater format. Properly is the key word, right?
Yeah.
And if you're keeping proper notes and you're keeping proper log of when you actually did things and you're actually speaking to them quarterly and you're inviting them to all the events, right? And you're inviting them all the things and you're doing all the activities you're supposed to be doing, then I'd say you could.
Here's what I'm curious about.
definitely-
How hard is it for you to get team members to make notes?
Notes aren't hard.
Yeah.
Notes are easy.
Because we have
Notes
seen
and
a
call-ups?
lot of teams struggle with that with their team members. Like we had one, he actually paid for a custom made platform that after every showing, it just texts their agents. And when they respond to the text, it auto enters it into the CRM for them because they just couldn't get it. But they found they'd respond to a text message. But that was it.
Well, where I'm going with this is to record appointments and then use AI transcript into like a prompt for summary into our follow-up boss.
Yeah.
Like that's where we want to be, because it would be so much better from that empathy standpoint. Because Matt and I have a lot of alignment with how you treat people that come in. We would use words like audience instead of algorithm, people instead of lead or profile. But when we look at it from that standpoint, there's a lot of room for improvement when you let the machines do the machine part, so you can just focus on being human. Like if I just need to remember great questions going into an appointment and I never have to sit down and type in front of somebody, is that a better appointment or not?
Well, that's even the addition of the AI notes within FUB, huge, right?
Mhm.
Those have been amazing. Those alone have been amazing, right? These guys are losing their minds, going like, "Whoa!" Right? And so notes isn't really the issue. I'd say it's that connection. It's picking up the phone. It's going, "Hey, John, I haven't talked to you in, this quarter, and now I've got to talk to you." And that's where I think most people would struggle. So one of the things that maybe to answer your previous question was we lean into events, right? We'll do, kind of community events, or like that's what the team will take care of, that allows the agent to reach out to their client, right? Gives them a reason to touch base. So for example, at the end of this month, we have the city's doing their Pride Parade that comes right in front of our office. So we'll throw a big tent up. We've done a massive thing with ice cream, face painters, all this sorts of stuff. We have music. And so the agent has the ability to invite their client. We've done, all the standard stuff like pumpkins. I think Taylor, you've done the pumpkin stuff. Right.
You know what
So
my
all
latest
that-
thing is? Cotton candy. I bought a cotton candy machine. It like the pop factor of cotton candy is a huge win, and then the other part of it is the machine. You can take it apart, put it together, and the cost per serving is sugar in a bag. Like it's
easy.
a cheat code. You should be the cotton candy king or queen of wherever you are. Rock every neighborhood party. It's a good
Yeah,
move.
you got to add into that. They do it at our mall. Is the ones who like turn cotton candy art, so they're able to turn it into like a bunny. They make it cotton candy into a cat.
Most of mine looks like the poop emoji. I think I'm gonna brand it.
That works. Cotton candy shit.
Put the googly eyes on the front.
It's brown. It's fine. Cinnamon
What
sugar.
do you like? What do you like for client events?
I like stuff that's a little bit more personal. From a company standpoint, I like stuff that the agent can get for free, and then they can possibly do an upgrade on. So, for example, one of the things we did was just family photos.
Yeah, that's like my
We
favorite.
Yeah, I love the family photos. We bring our photographer in, and they get some photos done, and then the agent can choose to basically upgrade it and maybe print the photo, put it in a frame, send it to the client, right? So my perfect kind of thing is something like that, where it's somewhat affordable from the company standpoint. It's a high touch point. It's it's good one-on-one time with the client and with the agent. And then at the same time, there's something else that the agent's able to do to really kind of knock it out of the park. Let's say if it's a VIP client, or if it's maybe just, a client that they haven't transacted with yet. They have the choice on if they want to kind of do something a little bit more or not. So to me, those are my perfect kind of little ones like that.
I love it. So you like smaller groups, more specific
Um,
interest?
Yeah, and those can run for a day or two, right? Like I can do a family photo shoot for a whole weekend, right? And just block off certain times. And that way, so and that's why I like it is because we can still stay so much in control versus, a big group event, which they have their place too, right? But they're going to cost me a lot more money. There's less things that the agent can do to kind of, make it that much better. And then we're really anxious on, okay, how many people are coming? Do we have enough? Do we need more?
Mm.
Right. And things like that. And so I think you need a mix of things, right? You've got to have the sexiness of these big events. But they're, if you're asking me what my favorite is and what my, those more intimate ones where we get some one-on-one time and yeah, there's upgrades, which is why I like.
Yeah. Just as a reminder to people here live, you can ask questions and we will make sure Matt or Taylor or myself answer it. Because that's part of half of the best thing about being live is getting your questions answered. So
and we're live. You also get to say stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. People think like we're closed books or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you want to know. Just
I'm still waiting for my first long-time listener. First time. One day we'll get that.
Been listening for so many minutes.
Yeah.
I have done a carnival. I did like a carnival that we had over 400 groups to. We had an RV parking contest in the parking lot. I had 3 face painters, 2 magicians. I had a midway where you could win prizes and a petting zoo. What I learned is that you can get people to attend for way less than I spent. Because even the people there were amazed. They're like, "This is amazing. We would have come here for a quarter of this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, that's good to know now."
One that I really liked, I saw someone do, it wasn't an agent, it was someone else for like a experience event, is he had a friend who was a professional race car driver. So he blocked out a parking lot, rented a Porsche, and the guy would just take people on like a lap at like how he drives. And like literally it's 30 seconds in the Porsche, but everyone getting out was like, oh my
that guy clearly did not have insurance for that event.
Probably not.
I used to get to do stuff like this. I used to work for Toyota and Lexus, and we used to do this thing called Ultimate Day Away. And I remember this lady bringing her car because they could take their own cars and see what they can do. And she brings this $90,000 convertible, and she says, "I'm too nervous to drive it. You got to drive it, but like I want to see what this thing can do." And this lady like owns Sobeys and stuff like that. And I go ripping around the course in her vehicle until she screams. And then she's like, "Okay, now slow down." Yeah. And that was it.
This is like what Mercedes does is like they have their own tracks. Like they have one on Vancouver Island, and they'll like, if you buy a certain level of car, you get to go out and spend a day or two at their tracks testing all the cars.
Like, all the luxury cars do that. You can go and pick up your Porsche in Stuttgart, Germany, and take it for a track day and open it up. Yeah. On the carnival that we did, I think that one of the things that turned out the most successful was our capture of video reviews. This is something that's been kind of like elusive, and getting people in the peak of when they're like thankful to you and excited about what's going on was a real key to that. But here's how we made it happen. Everybody who came in had to register. And when they registered, we could see on a list whether or not they had given us a 5-star review already. If they had given us a 5-star review, we gave them those like beads that you get at Mardi Gras. No. And that meant that the other people would see that some people had beads and some people didn't. And then they would go to one of our staff members who all had iPads and said, "Hey, where can I get those beads?" And they'd be like, "Oh, have you given us a 5-star review?" And they would give us a review. And we got dozens of reviews using this method. But then later in the day, we brought around my wife and she would watch people's kids for them to go into our video room. And we knew to approach the people that were wearing beads because they were already advocates. So we made this like flow to bring people into a videographer and get video reviews. And I haven't had as much success getting that in any other way.
Yeah, video reviews are tough for most to get unless you have something like that where it's like we have this specific setup live. Because if you just say, "Send me one," you'll get the odd person who does it, but almost no one's doing those.
I think that that's the win when it comes to those big events is just have like a smaller goal and say like we're just going to have everybody have fun. We want it to be big, splashy, sexy like Matt has. Mine aren't sexy. I do like cornfields and shit. But
Like the really cool cornfields.
yeah, no, they are, man. We're going to do this event that's going to be Harry Potter themed later at like at a cornfield that also has a whole bunch of other I guess it's kind of like a redneck amusement park, but in that case, clients love it. They get to bring their kids. We're going to a place that is already fairly low cost, but then we're going to augment that experience and kind of make it like the Triwizard tournament from Harry Potter, and that will like suck our ideal client profile in. So
as long as it's not like the Willy Wonka thing in Scotland, I think you're good.
yeah, I saw that Willy Wonka thing actually, the where they invited everybody in and it just like was basically an empty warehouse.
Yeah, and there's just like one person who painted their face orange, and that was about it.
It's like the fire festival of kids attractions.
Yeah. Yeah, because like the guy who did it now is just known as Willy Wanker, which is a great nickname. I was like, yeah, you don't want that coming to your
I
business.
unplugged my headphones there. I unplugged my headphones.
Yeah. That's how you know it's a good line. So, Matt, I'm curious now on a different way. What challenges do you feel like are your main ones with your team now? Because like as people grow, their challenges change.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest change or challenge, it starts with recruiting. I don't think anyone until you've got, Chet Black ringing in your ear that's your biggest, your biggest challenge is recruiting. You don't realize you've got to be like, a year ahead of where you're supposed to be, hiring at the right times. It's always going to feel uncomfortable. At least it always does for me. No matter if I'm just refilling a position or not, and we've got super low turnover. So, that's always difficult as you're going through growth. The recruiting thing is always the biggest one, the recruiting, and it's the same job as what we were doing before. So I'm not in production. Are you still in production?
I left and came back. So now I basically work within my, like mostly within my sphere. And I just do a few things. I found that being a little bit on the tools was kind of a better mix for me.
Yeah. And I've basically I'll try and do a couple of years just so that I'm not out of it completely. But at the end of the day, since I'm out of production, the challenge is essentially making sure that I'm recruiting, is doing the same job I was doing before with just basically different widgets. And so that's the number one challenge. But when we got to this kind of size, now it starts becoming more HR side. And that's always, we had three employees for the longest time, and so the HR side there was would be difficulties. Now we're getting that again, but more sometimes on the agent side. And so just you're learning to navigate new things, and being able to treat the business like a business is always the bonus. So, I'm not necessarily, worrying about a specific transaction or a specific thing. I'm worried about, larger picture things. And that's the nice part now.
Out of curiosity, this question for both of you, how long do you think you could each walk away from the business and it would keep running as it is today before you needed to step back in?
What are you talking about? I ate lunch at my desk. No, I'm just kidding.
Not a business at all.
I could leave. I think that I could leave for probably about maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and after that, like even if there was a pretty significant interruption, like somebody was either coming onto the team or leaving the team, and things like that, even with me gone for 4 weeks, the people here could totally sort it out.
Yeah. I was going to say a little bit longer than that, but realistically, it's about the same. Everyone's got, like, the admins have their credit cards. I've kind of brought a agent, or one of our top producing agents, kind of brought him into more of a leadership position to kind of offload some of that and provide more support. So, I'm needed less and less. And that was kind of my goal, is to kind of, move me out of being needed. I'm still there, like all my agents bypass all my do not disturb modes, but at the end of the day,
this is one of my favorite
my client,
things that Keith Roy did, is he like similar was around that, and he's like, all right, I want to leave for 8 months, and he kept like expand. Okay, if I'm gone for 2 months, where am I needed? Okay, now I got to take myself out of that, and then it's like, okay, I'm gone. Okay, now if I go 4 months, and they just kept working backwards until he figured out, and he left for 8 months, and they had their best year ever as a team.
I was like,
That doesn't surprise me, mostly because I know Keith.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
We'll have him on come on and talk about how come your team's better when you're not there.
Yeah, Keith will be the first one to tell
Why
you.
are you holding them back?
Yeah, it was actually really fun to be around Keith Roy a lot because when I was coming up, I was part of Richard Robbins' Masters Advisory Council, and Keith was like almost like an upperclassman there. So he was somebody who had been in the system longer than I, achieved higher results than I did, further along, but also someone who is very technically minded, which helped me because I kind of have an inner conflict, being somebody who's quite empathetic, but also somebody who's quite technical. And that really worked for an example. So I really like Keith Roy. And I think as far as a business, an entrepreneur, I don't know that there are that many that are better than Keith in real estate that can actually like make a complete business. He's exceptional.
Yeah, what he's good at is that he can sit down with you in like half an hour, dissect your whole business in one shot and be like, yep, here's your error.
My first time ever meeting him, he looked right across the table and said, like, when are you going to start a team? And I was like, oh, I'm not. My clients pay for me. And then he looked at me and he said, no. He says, you just assume that you're really good in the room with the client. That's the part that other people can do. The reason you're sitting at this table with us is because you can lead generate, sell, and business manage at the same time. And as soon as you accept that, you're going to go to the next level. And that was like within 30 minutes of meeting me.
Yeah.
He's a freak.
Yeah, I've always appreciated that. It's like there's just no, here's your issue. And he
just there. Straight. He might as well start with that. Like he doesn't even know your name. And he's like, by the way, this is your insides.
Yeah. Those are my favorite rooms when you're in, when someone's just like, you talk for 10 minutes, like you think you know the issue, and then someone's like, oh no, clearly it's this thing over here. Like this thing you think is the issue is a symptom. This is the thing.
Mm-hmm. So when you start to cast forward, Matt, what do you see? Like, are you satisfied with your team size? Are you looking for something that is like, are you looking for more there? You give a head shake. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is as we grow, we've made the last year, we've learned a lot of lessons. That's how I'll phrase that. You learn the lessons around, we've started including a probation period, on the team. So before you can actually officially join, you've got to go through that. And to make it past that, everyone essentially has to vote, right? So every agent gets a vote. So so actually, I can kind of dig into this because I'm really proud of this and I love this. Is my vote is essentially putting you into the environment, into the team, if you will. That's my vote. Because if you pass my muster, then you're essentially good. But then you got to earn it. So then you've got to do the work. You got to show that you're willing to do it. We onboard you the same. Everything's the exact same. The only difference is you don't get leads. You can get, you can dig into the rental pond, you get add in some of these other stuff, but you don't get leads provided from us. You've got to go work it. You got to go show that you want to, be a part of our environment. I tell people, raise your hand when someone asks for help. Raise your hand. Be there. If someone needs something to cover a showing, someone needs to come and cover an open house. Raise your hand. Work your ass off. This is the time to do it. At some point, you'll start realizing that the person's good and they should deserve to be on, whether they ask me or not. And then I go around every agent and one-on-one, and I'll ask them, hey, do you think this person deserves to be on the team? And then that way it gives me a chance to hear any kind of, sounds back, right? Like, oh, they said this, I don't really like them. They rubbed me the wrong way, whatever. I can handle it in advance. Or they're like, yeah, 100%, they deserve to be on the team. They're amazing. They're killing it, and go from there. So I love that side of it. But we learned a lot of lessons. And so, going through that, what was the original question?
When you look forward, you're not satisfied with your team size, so you're building, right? And so you're talking about how you're adding people onto the team, but you feel as though this is just organic growth, or is there a goal or a cap?
No. So I think one of the things that I learned was as we add people, we're able to do more for the team, right? My clients now are the teams, not the agent, or are the agents, not the consumer, right? My agent is my person that I'm trying to fulfill their needs. And so the more we have, the more we're able to provide to them, the better we are. We're like a car that's able to improve itself. And so as we add producing agents, right, we're able to do more for them. And that's what I love. And so we're coming off of essentially trying to fix some of those mistakes that I've made on, let's call it hiring. But as we continue to grow, we're going to do more. Right, adding in moving boxes that they're able to give to their clients, adding in certain things, doing more events, right? Having like, we've got 3,000 square feet retail space here that we use as an office, right? Being able to like leverage that. So all of those things, as we continue to grow, we'll be able to provide more to the agent. And so, I've kind of, we doubled in size last year. I'd like to double again, and we're on track for that. And when I say double, we ended up at 10. We're currently at 13. I expect us to end up at 15, which means we'll hit 20 and then we'll drop down to probably about 15 is my goal, with kind of letting some go and having probably a 1 or 2 leave. So we're probably ahead, if not where we want to be, and so it's kind of fun. But I think as we continue to grow, as we continue to leverage the brands that we're a part of and the leadership teams that we're a part of, we're learning more and more. I'd love to continue to do ancillary services like you see in the States. That's kind of continuously been on the radar. And now as I'm continually moving myself a little bit further out of the day to day, I can kind of start focusing on that. And so it's where are we headed? That's where we're headed, and that's where I'd like to keep going. But depends on the kind of the picture you're talking about. So within the team, it's continue to grow the team, continue to provide the services that we provide. On the marketing side, the next hire is most likely someone that's going to be doing content. So, more content focused someone, so that my main marketing person can move into more ops / overall marketing. And then, so it's all these kind of just constant little tweaks to continue to provide back to the agents. Like what I'm sitting in right here is just basically we took one of the rooms that weren't being used and it turned it into a bit of a media room. And so agents take Zoom calls here now, they'll do videos, and this is literally, Kenny Fast sent me his list of stuff, and now we've got this studio here that we can leverage, right? So it's just constantly trying to add on and grow and provide more for the agents, because they're my consumer, they're my client, and the more I can do for them, the better we win altogether. So
that's awesome, and that's great. I've run into Kenny as well, and that's the same room I'm in my office. Is we have an office that's dedicated to shooting. We make content here. We probably make more teammate content than anybody in our market by an order of magnitude. And that's great. I think that helps with our recruiting, is that we're not just looking for me plus the band.
I don't know what I did though, but somehow I have a tan and neither of you do. So I like my
Mine's
equipment
the
really
bright
much.
light.
Mine is Edmonton, Alberta. I have a tan for Edmonton, Alberta. Okay, don't give me that.
I can play with my
sunshine.
temperature settings if I want to fake a tan, though.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah,
Maybe I should go for that.
So
you think I should change that up?
have this software called Ecamm that can like add overlays, different things like that.
Yeah.
But when I use it, turning on the light creates a ringing noise in my stuff.
What?
Yeah. So I'm trying to like troubleshoot why turning on a light makes a ringing noise in a software on my computer. So there's something hitting.
Try and add those, those electric or the magnet things that go around your cables. Try and add those.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing, is you might have like a power cable over top of your audio cable or something.
Yeah. So I'm currently in the troubleshooting when I have time phase. Because I'd like to be able to, like, for example, like here, I could put like a Leads or Shit logo. I could do different things like that where I have branding on the screen. Or I used to do presentations where I'd frame it almost like a news deck, where I'd kind of like move myself over here, but then my slides would actually be up here, kind of like, John Oliver style.
Yeah, I use Prezi for that, and it works great. Prezi Video, right into Zoom, right into any platform, and you can get floating things. So instead of sharing your screen, it really does feel like the experience just comes into it.
Yeah, and they make a much better more engaging presentation, but right now creates a ringing noise.
Oh, we got anyone using separate camera for video and mic? I think we all are.
Yeah. I got the mic there, and I got this mic, and then I got the camera, and I've tried different webcams and stuff like that. Right now I'm actually using, because I just got a new Mac, I'm just using the built-in one because it's better than my
It's doing great.
Yeah, like same with like my phone. Like I have a DSLR and I was filming with it, And then it died one time, so I switched to my phone, and the quality of my phone was better than DSLR. And I was like, I just gotta not worry about that and use the stuff that's already built in.
I think, like in the questions like favorites, and it comes into budget. It comes into where do you want to use it and what's the content you want to use. I already had this camera, which in theory was one of the most expensive parts. I ended up picking up a Mac Mini because I knew I wanted to run a Stream Deck. So the whole goal was that I could sit here and make it so that an agent could walk in, push a button, it would start recording, it would push another button, finish it, it would automatically upload to Dropbox that they had to have access to on their phone, and then they could publish that, and take it and do whatever they want with it. And so, like I'm using a blue mic that we, again, already had around the office. I'm using cheap Amazon lights. And then I've added, because we've got different people of different sizes, I've added a standing desk, an electric standing desk, so it can rise and lower depending on how tall the person is, so they can center themselves. And that's really, I've got a cheap TV monitor here just as a thing, but I would argue that this, if I didn't have this set up here, I would have probably done this at home. I probably would have just used my laptop. I've spent so much time and money trying to figure some of this stuff out when I should have just used a laptop, and the quality doesn't really matter. And
as long as the sound's
sexy
good.
Answer.
Yeah, you just need good sound.
Sound is key.
Slightly lower quality video, it's not a big deal. Yes, it's great to have perfect everything, but at the end of the day, as long as you can see you a little bit, but the audio's good.
I definitely have the highest cost setup of the group right here.
Probably.
I've got this Shure mic running into a Rodecaster. I have a separate computer running this. This is a Sony A7S with a specialized lens. It also has a prompter, so I'm looking directly into the camera and I can still see Andrew and Matt. Yeah. So this is the highest quality setup, and I still look like this. Okay, I'm not going to be like, these guys can even more so make fun of my tan. I'm balder than ever, right? So it doesn't much
that's
matter.
Just on camera.
Yes, it's very luscious.
I used to have pretty big setups on different things, and then everything just ended up being all right, let's simplify it, and literally the built-in camera was good enough.
And that's kind of where I was trying to go with it, was I spent so much time trying to figure out which one's better, and then do I need to, the prompter, I was trying to I want to do this properly, I want them to be able to read stuff, and then we would actually get there, we'd get starting to read, and my video guy would be like, this is horrible, stop trying to read off the screen. And so it's kind of I just go back to just use it, whatever you have available to you, just use that and get more content out there, and that will do you better in the long run.
I also think that anything that you should buy, try to work it down so it's $1 per rep. So if you're going to spend $500 on photo equipment, you better produce 500 videos with that. So when you also take a look at the overall content that I've created, I'm in easy mid 5 digits of numbers of videos created. This definitely didn't start this way, nor should it, right? You should show the commitment before you start really buying things.
And don't invest until you've already proven you can do it with whatever you have on hand, right? If you have a phone, you can do social media really well with just this and nothing else. And once it starts doing well, my first website was literally a free Google Blogger. And until I started getting business, I didn't upgrade it at all. It was the ugliest piece of crap, that website, but it worked. And
so, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's it. I just kept over time I'd reinvest back in, but my first website cost me $12 a year, but it worked.
Yeah. Why the dollar figure? I have 2 companies. So I have my real estate team. I guess I have 2 companies that I do this with, but the other one is a sister company or the caboose to this, which is actually its own independent marketing company. And the larger vision is to have all of our trusted experts, all of the entrepreneurs around us, work with us for marketing. So there is a much larger vision here. That's why I've spent more money, but it also depends on what your intention is. From this office, I've interviewed people from NASA, some of the people that are really high in tech with another company that I've worked with. So it depends on what you're shooting for, But this is also like, I take this seriously. Like, I'm here with Andrew every week. We're showing up to play. I want to make sure that we're bringing you the best content. We're bringing you the most awesome people. That's why we have Matt here today. Is with Matt, like, I have to have a setup like this to even get him to hang out with me, right? He's like, "What kind of mic do you use?" There's a
Go back
lot
to the
of
clubhouse days where it was like,
and there was a rider. What's with all these brown M&Ms? No.
Greens only. Greens only. Yeah, Taylor's definitely buying a newspaper. I'm going to get him to do it. One of these days he's pulling.
Gee. This is how you know you've got good friends, by the way. You've got one friend that's taking over Ottawa and another friend that is saying, like, you should get up and buy a newspaper, you loser.
Yeah, back it up and do it.
So, Matt, what do you think about our process here? We're trying to make talking about real estate more of a hang and keep the conversation at the edge of marketing and sales.
yeah, I think it's great, right? We're bringing a conversation that, you know, most people won't be able to be a part of to more people. And I think that's so valuable for, like, I love that, right? I love being able to listen to someone who's at the level that I'd like to be at, or is doing something incredibly well, and hear what they're thinking about, right? Hear what's going on in their head, hear what their struggles and what, you know, what their wins are. And, you know, that type of thing is so valuable to our industry and to an agent that I absolutely love it.
And you're just a killer at giving back. Like, you share your great ideas everywhere. I'm sure that you are astounded that nobody has tried to track you where you are. You're not seeing competitors rise that are following your footsteps, even though you've basically said, here's my game plan.
Well, because it's execution, right?
Yeah.
And like, you catch yourself or you see other people doing, you're like, why are they just not finishing? Why are they just not doing it? Why are they just not, you know, putting a little bit more time in, right?
I always go to, like,
did
when
you guys expect it to work already?
So it was like when I interviewed Mark Ferris, who was like 1,700 deals a year of their best year. And I was like, you know, what do you do differently? He's like, nothing. We just do the boring stuff consistently. And I was like, that's most of all it is for us, is we know what works. Everyone does. We just don't stop doing it.
One of my favorite quotes is, the magic that you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding.
No.
It it just hits. Well, we're definitely going to ask you back, Matt. We want to do some of these that are also going to be on, like, specific instance and have more of a roundtable. We want to get more conversations happening. It's cool to go to these American conferences and get some ideas, some of which work here, some of which don't. But that's the hardest thing about American ideas. Like, how much American apparatus that you do you use that you have to find weird workarounds for? Because that's my experience being a Canadian.
Especially all the data they have.
But that's the thing, is I find that it's the same thing here, right? If you boil away and strip away a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, it's the exact same stuff here, right? Maybe minus August 17th, you can, you know, but like, at the end of the day, the business is still the same thing, right? We're still doing the same thing, having the same conversations with the same people, right? We don't have fair housing rules. And then that's like the biggest difference.
We do on social media.
Yeah. But aside from that, like, we're doing the same thing, right? And at the end of the day, it's the same business, but they're usually a little bit more ahead than we are, right? And so, listen, and at the end of the day, it's the people. It's all about the people. It's all about the networking. It's all about the relationships, right? Like, being able to sit here with you guys, right? Like, Taylor, you were at on stage keynote at FubCon. Like, I don't think people realize how amazing that is, and how, like, obviously they've heard you speak before, they've heard you talk, and they've heard the reason why you were invited onto that stage. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent.
I really appreciate that, and thank you so much. I appreciate you giving us your time today, and I definitely am going to pick your brain. I always am looking for some projects, and I think that my school project and your freehold project probably have a whole bunch of overlap.
Yeah, we have some fun with that. We should do one just where we dissect those projects and look at it.
I'd be in.
I like dive deep right on that one thing.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll definitely book you back in, but thanks for joining us today. And always good to see you, Andrew, owner of Real Estate Magazine, the founder of Just Sell Homes, here with new purveyors. This is great. Meeting of the brands and some weird bald guy from Edmonton. That's, I have to say, though,
He's a real hack.
Works.
I gotta get my tan back. Hold on here. There we go.
Oh,
There we
well,
go.
Here we are with handsome Matt. You guys have
you
a
almost
great
made
day.
it like movie third world lighting there, where they add the filter on. It's like, oh, we're in the third world now. We can't let them know that they have nice weather. It's going to be like a yellow tinge over it. You know, they did that with the new White Lotus trailer. They did. They just added like a tinge over. Someone's like, and here's the real gorgeous setting this place is actually in.
Yeah, like the horrible lighting of the before picture and
Yeah.
before and after.
Yeah, it's good times. All right, appreciate you guys. We'll see you. Well, when's the next event? Next week we have Tom Story coming on, another great team leader. He's from Toronto, one of the best there is when it comes to video. So if you're watching this replay before we go live, make sure you tune in live. We'll put the link to register here. If you're watching it after August 15th, make sure you just go onto the channel and look for the episode with Tom Story, because it's going to be a great one. See you guys in there.